Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest is Bridgette Bello. Bridgette, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Hello, audience. My name is Bridgette Bello. I'm the CEO and founder of the Executive Collective, which is a peer group, relational peer group for CEOs, business owners, and founders, currently in the Tampa Bay region, but looking to expand nationally.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what are you working on, like, currently? Like, what is your ideal client, I would say?
Yeah, so it varies depending on the market. If there's already really strong infrastructure in a market for a CEO peer level group, I'm not interested in competing with them. I'm really looking to offer that type of experience to people who don't already have access to it. So with Tampa Bay being the demo market, I am super serving the $1 to $5 million CEO and founder, also offering without limitations from a revenue perspective, a women's only CEO and founder group. And then something that I haven't been able to find anywhere else, which as we're in the midst of the largest leadership shift in the history of the world, is a successors group. And that is for successors who have been identified by the owner, founder, or CEO as the person who's going to take their seat.
So you do a lot of networking, a lot of connecting, that kind of thing.
Yeah, networking is probably my least favorite word in the English language. I think it's pretty performative. It's really more about a peer advisory relational group of people who get together on a consistent basis and provide support and advice and a safe space for other CEOs and business owners to be able to talk about the things that they don't normally have the opportunity to talk about.
That's really cool. There's a couple, I got invited to one last Wednesday. I think they have it every Wednesday, and they have a bunch of like CEOs on there, and they have to make at least 5 million, and it's really cool. I haven't watched the video. I just got the video, but they have a lot of that kind of stuff. I was in Arate, which is Andy Frisella's group with Ed Milet, and that was pretty cool. That was more of just them talking about stuff, and then you have to kind of like relate, and then you'd have to like jam on your keyboard like some questions for them to answer, which was interesting. That was an interesting one. I know they have like Andrew Tate has his own like men's group. He has a couple of different ones, like War Room and I forgot the other one.
I just haven't really found anyone that's doing it the way that I'm doing it and doing it for who I'm doing it for. So, and if there is, again, like I said, I'm very much am looking to offer the experience to people who don't currently have access to it. So it's not about competing with existing organizations who are doing it right.
Yeah, like Tiger 21's another group. Like I don't know if you heard of that one.
Oh yeah,
that was a really good group. There's a bunch. It's just I've always wanted to get into that stuff, and I tried a couple different groups. It just never really held my attention long enough, just because.
Well, that's the facilitator's job, right? And so hopefully I'm doing a good job, I think, based on my groups and what I've been told of being a great facilitator. And honestly, they block it on their calendar and they tell me that they don't let anything come in the way of it unless it's just absolutely something that they have no choice. That's
the thing that I know you're going to hate this word, networking happens, is that I love networking because I'll meet anybody and anywhere, and it's kind of and I sell real estate, so it's a good referral kind of thing. Like they'll be like, oh, I know Chris, and then somebody will edify me, and then it'll kind of snowball its way through. When you get into higher levels, it's really difficult. So I have a friend of mine that does podcasting, and he'll have like once a quarter an event, and he'll invite everybody that was on the podcast out and to have like a networking event. But it sounds like yours is way more structured than that.
It's way more structured than that, and it's really more about making meaningful connections for people. And look, networking helped me build my career, right? To a certain degree, it helps everyone build their career. But I believe that there's a point where it becomes diminishing returns because everyone that you're meeting is wanting or needing something from you, as opposed to connecting with people who you can help them, they can help you, and it's meaningful. And it's something that you really make a point to follow up on those connection points because you believe that the person that made them is making them for something valuable for everyone involved, as opposed to just, hey, here's my card, right?
Yeah, that's what I ran into. Was it was a lot of like, "Hey, who are you?" and like, "What do you do?" and I'd be like, "Okay, cool." And then some of the stuff was like so far out there. Like I didn't even get it for the podcast, but it would be like, "Oh, like I saw hair clips," and I'd be like,
Yeah.
like,
Not exactly a prospect, are you?
yeah, and I was just like, or I had this one lady that we us Texans have that like, even though I guess I'm a Texan now, I've been here for almost 15 years, but it's like they had that whole like bless your heart thing. So she came
Oh,
up
yeah.
to me and she was like, "Do you live here?" And I was at the Ritz and I was like, I was hanging out with like a bunch of regulars and I was like, yeah, I live here with like all these 5 guys in this small condo upstairs in the Ritz. And she's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, just like,
Why are we having this
yeah,
conversation?
like,
Yeah.
it's
Well, and
just
that's a really good definition of networking,
yeah,
isn't it?
sometimes it's like that, and sometimes it's like you just nail it. But it's actually the opposite for like what you do and for
Yes.
what C-suite and people that are affluent. Like they don't want to know, like, or they don't want to have people in those rooms, and they sure don't want their name knowing that they're going to be in the room. So
Right.
it's a very private thing. It's actually like opposite.
It's opposite of performative. It's very much more about where do I feel safe? Where do I feel like I can have those conversations that I can't have other places? Where do I feel like the person's motivation for being there and being part of that conversation is genuine and pure and not what's in it for them? And so it gets very different the higher you move through the ranks, the more leadership role that you take on, the less proximity matters and the more really true connections and safe spaces matter.
Yeah, especially when you get into time, because time is money, especially for me.
100%.
And it's like, if I'm going to sit down for an hour and listen to, or even half an hour and listen to some people, like it has to really hold my interest. Otherwise, it's just, I'll have it on the background and I'll be doing something else and it'll be, kind of worthless. I also like the fact that there's a lot of barriers to entry. So you have to meet a certain criteria in terms of net
Yes.
worth, or you have to be on so many boards, or like you have to invent something. There's a lot of different stuff that that you can create to create those small rooms that
100%.
people will go to.
But I also think then you have to stick to it, right?
Yeah,
and so
right.
in a lot of cases, people have brought up, well, what about, you said Tiger 21, and they actually do stick to it, right? But their criteria is so difficult that very few people qualify for that, right? I mean, I think you have to have 100 million in investable assets, and the annual fee is 30,000, and there's not a whole lot of those
21
people.
million is I think the low barrier.
Oh, okay, 21. I thought it was 100 million.
Yeah, I think it's 21 because it's Tiger 21, so it's 21 million.
Oh, there you go.
Low barrier, and then there's some sort of stuff after that. But yeah,
30 grand a year.
Yeah, it's expensive.
And
but
my understanding is it's a full day and a full evening every month, and not everyone wants to give a full day and a full evening every month, right? And
but
so,
there's some. I had a friend go, and I know a couple other friends that are in investment folks that I've dealt business with or had business with, and they went and they meet some really untouchable people.
sure,
So
it's an incredible group. It definitely has a place, and I'm glad it
it's
exists
the same.
for the people
I'm sure
that
it's
qualify.
the same thing with your group too. Like
It is. It's just different, right?
right.
And people, I don't necessarily want to have those relational peer conversations with people that have 21 million in investable assets because I can't relate, right? And so I'd much rather be with people whose businesses are approximately the same size as mine, who are going through the same things from a growth and scale perspective. Maybe I'm sure all of those people in Tiger, and there's so many of the other ones that are super high up like that. Sure, at some point they were a smaller, $1 to $5 million company, but what's changed since that was them, and how has growing and scaling changed since that was them, right? And so really for me, what the Executive Collective is about and what I'm most passionate about is a transfer of knowledge that, again, I've not seen anywhere else. And through this big leadership shift that we're going through, I'm so passionate about making sure that business owners and founders and CEOs don't necessarily have to learn those hard lessons the hard way like the rest of us did, because hopefully the Executive Collective is sharing that knowledge with them that keeps them from kind of banging their heads against the mountain, for lack of a better way to put it, right?
Yeah, I saw that with the CEO isolation tax, and I kind of feel for that because RTA is really good about having just anybody walk of life as long as you get paid the fee. And it's usually entrepreneurs, small business owners, our audience for the most part. And then they'll just end up talking about their experiences or like a topic, which is cool. And then like you kind of can ask questions versus more of a direct, this is what I've faced before. I'm sure you guys are facing it, but, at the same time. I kind of relate it to like a men's Christian group where
Yeah.
they come in, they're like, I'm having this problem, like this personal problem or this business problem, and then one of the brothers is like, hey, look, like I've been down that road. This is what I did, and it's kind of like an AA of sorts for like CEOs and CFOs and C-suites and
Yeah.
business owners and stuff, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
It is. It is very cool. And I think the secret sauce, too, at least in my world, is to make sure that you're really sticking to what you say the parameters are, right? So if you say you have to be a CEO or a business owner or a founder, then you can't let in COOs and market presidents and so many organizations because they're relying on dues, right? Well, we'll blur the lines like, okay, you're the highest ranking official here. Obviously, maybe you're the bank president for a bank. You're not the CEO, right? It's different. It's very different. And they can't have the same conversations.
Or they can't relate.
Correct.
That's pretty much it.
And they can't offer sage advice because they're not in the same seat.
Yeah, I went through a little bit of a pep talk with my team, and I was like, you have to have some sort of sense of urgency. Like when I get a lead coming in, they want to buy a house. Like, how soon can I get them out looking at a house? How soon can I get them to go meet me? How soon can I get them to speak to the loan officer? What's the urgency? Like, how soon can, if I say, hey, like, I see you're interested in 123 Main, like, how soon are you looking to move? Oh, I'm looking to move in the next 30 days. Well, that's a different conversation in the next year.
Sure.
Right. Or in the next 6 months. So I'm like, okay, well, like, let's get out there and go look at some homes, So you got to have some urgency. And that's one of the things that you can't teach people. And the reason why I brought that up is because when you are in those situations where you're a leader and you're a CEO or you're the company owner like I am, right? And you're dealing with problems all day long. And like somebody that's a bank president isn't dealing with problems at that level. They're dealing with maybe like somebody's upset or something like that. Not like hardcore problems where the whole company will go under or like we're not going in the right direction or
how am I going to make payroll?
Right.
Or how am I going to pay myself if I do make payroll, right?
It's a wild thing.
Excuse me.
Talk to me a little bit about just leaders and them going through exits, succession. I've spoken to a lot, and we've had a lot of guests also on the show where they'll come in, they'll build a business, and they'll sell it. And a lot of it's just like no emotion, just build it, sell it, and out the door. Versus somebody that's like myself that's, been building this castle of sorts all these years, and then I want to sell it, and it's like a big, it's a big moment. I'm sure you've dealt with both on both sides with your group, and it's somebody that comes in and just is trying to do that. I'm sure that's like a huge topic.
It is. I've actually seen way less of no emotion. I can't even think of a single person I've seen not go through emotion, right? As founders and owners, oftentimes our identities are very, very tightly tied to being that owner or CEO. And so when we think about succession or we think about selling, we think about, oh my God, who am I going to be, right? And when you were talking about going to networking events earlier, I was kind of waiting for the second to say, try saying to somebody without telling me what you do, who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of us can't do that, right? I mean, it's who we are. And so you go through this almost grieving process, like the steps of grieving when you come out of that succession or sale. And you kind of are like, I don't know who I am anymore, right? I don't have the structure. I don't have the title. Are people still going to want to be my friend because I don't matter anymore, right? I mean, there are all those things that go through our minds. And so it's a super interesting dynamic, but I have yet to see somebody do it without emotion. So I'm super curious to hear about your experience in that.
Yeah, so I had a guest come on, or actually I had a couple of guests come on, and they just build businesses, and there's no real, I guess, some empathy and some feelings, because there's a human factor. You hire people and
Sure.
you get them going and stuff like that. And then you meet their families like I do and all that good stuff. And then at some point they're like, well, cool. Like, we made it to a certain point and I don't want to take it any further. It's gotten too big, or, it's gotten to the point where, it's kind of
I'm
out
not
of my
having fun
hands.
anymore.
I'm not having fun anymore, right? And then they sell it, and then they build another company, and they're like, well, I'm just going to continue doing it. And I've met that versus like you meet somebody like me that's like, there's no price tag that is going to take for me to like sell, maybe one day, but it's not an ego thing. It's just I really enjoy all of it. Like I enjoy the problems. I enjoy, this person's not going to close on time. I'm going to enjoy like these leads aren't getting called.
The chaos. Are you a
Right.
chaos junkie?
I don't know. Like it's the same thing. Like Alex Hormozy had like, he has those little events and people go and pay like thousands of dollars to ask him like one question and sit in their room, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But like somebody stood up and he was like, well, I'm going to make a certain amount of money and like, I'm getting kind of tired and I think I'm going to switch to like doing something else and sell it. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, what are you going to do? He's like, I don't really know. Like, I'll take 2 weeks and then like, figure it out from there. He's like, cool. So you get to go on vacation and come back and regret selling your business. And he's like, probably.
And the number that I have seen buy back their businesses after selling them, yes, is like, I mean, amazing. And oftentimes it's for less because it was so founder led and so much their passion and so much them that was the success of the company that when somebody else takes it over, they just can't achieve that same success. Right. And so I've had a lot of conversations with owners or founders who have gone back and bought the business back and built it back up again and gone through it a second time. And yeah.
That's interesting. I'm thinking about that because it would be very awkward.
Super awkward, right?
Yeah, because like you sold it and you're like gave away. It's basically like giving away your kid. And even though I don't have any children, by the way. But like it would be like the same idea where it's like I give away my child and then it's like, okay, well, cool. Like you raised my child for a couple years. Now you haven't figured it out. Like I want my child back. And I'm only going to pay you $3 instead of the $5 you gave me. It's just weird. Like,
and that's the part where it's like, but is it just business? Right. I mean, and if you can do that and you have the ability to kind of detach yourself from the situation of looking at it like it's your child and looking at it like, well, I did this once before and I can probably do it again, probably better than anybody else can. So if I can get it for pennies on the dollar and they're the dollars I made from selling it, right? I mean, it seems kind of a perfect world scenario if you think it through.
It reminds me of Papa John's.
Yeah.
So that guy sold his business and like now like Shaq and a bunch of other people own it. And he takes to Twitter and like talks about how awful the pizza is and all this stuff. And now it's being sold to something
going through
else.
the same thing. They're saying that the peanut butter cup, Reese's peanut butter cups, like they're trash now. They're disgusting. And that's like my favorite candy.
Yeah, that's one of my
supposedly
favorites, too.
there was a part of it that in the agreement that they couldn't change the recipe, and they did. So but it happens a lot, right? Because that's why it's the recipe. That's why it's our secret sauce. So yeah.
Talk to me about women in leadership and this role. And this is a pretty sensitive subject because I've had a lot of women on the show as leaders in different companies. And I've heard, and also owners, when they can't get finance. Talk to me about it on the leadership role for women and how it's a little bit different dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly still have challenges with raising capital, getting the financing, right? And when I mean, not that I'm young, right? And I don't mind talking about how old I am. I'm 55, but
I'm 48, so don't worry.
Okay. But when I tell my daughter, for instance, who's 30, like in my lifetime, women were not allowed to apply for credit cards.
Wow.
In the last 55, it was I'm going to get it wrong, but it was like 1974 or 76 before women could apply in their own names for a credit card.
Wow. I didn't know
in
that.
my lifetime, right?
That's wild.
And so out of one side of my mouth, it's like, we've come a long way, baby. And out of the other side of my mouth, I'm like, wow, that's sad, and so many other things, right? From a leadership perspective, the reason that I developed what I refer to as the Sovereign Collective, which is the no revenue limitation, women's only CEO and owner group, is because we lead very differently. Men don't have the conversation that sounds like it's okay to be soft and also be a leader, right? Men don't say, my favorite phrase, you don't have to use your femininity in business, but you also don't have to lose it, right? Men don't have those conversations.
No.
Men don't go to work and, almost at the office think, oh shit, did I take the chicken out this morning? And who's picking Susie up from dance, and right? Because somebody else takes care of that. And if it's not a wife or a partner, you've farmed it out to somebody else probably that you're paying, right? So our leadership styles and challenges and empathy and all of those things are just very, very different. And so I think, I'd love to tell this story, and he's one of my best friends. And if he listens, he'll know I'm talking about him. But when I very first got my first CEO role, this gentleman had a position in the same building as me. And so sometimes he would end up in the elevator with me on the way up to the office. And he tells this story of like, I had assistants buzzing around me, and, one was fixing my lipstick and one was fixing my hair, and one was like going through the calendar with me on the way up to the office. And I never had an executive assistant in my entire 30-year CEO career, right? But his perception was that I had all of these people buzzing around me, taking care of me and running my schedule and fixing my face. And
I think there was a movie about that.
There was. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that was part of it because I was in the publishing industry, and maybe that's where it came from, right? But I just think that we have different leadership challenges. I think people make assumptions based on our titles and based on the fact that we're a woman. And, I've been referred to as shrewd, and I've been referred to as tough, and things that people just don't say about men in a similar role. So it's the whole thing about like, they think you're a bitch, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're the one that's running the company and you're a female, they think you're the B word.
Right. I don't know. I've had some women bosses. Some were very tough. Some were really cool. It was just really about just their mood, to be really honest.
Another thing you would not say about a man.
No, I would say that because I worked for some guys that were just a-holes, and like I don't know if he just had, or they had like issues at home, or he just was raised bad or something, but just 24 hours of just a-hole. And I would just be like, dude, like, and it wasn't like I was doing anything like mind blowing, like I was digging a ditch, and it's just like, so I think it also,
I mean, I'd be in a bad mood too.
Well, I was the one digging, and he was the one looking at me, so it was like a lot of that kind of stuff. But I also think that, which I don't think women have, but as a guy, after a certain age and you haven't really made it, then guys look in the mirror and they ask themselves, like, is this really it? And they have these heartfelt, like, internal conversations, like, am I a dud? Like, what do I need to do? I've been, doing the same thing for however many years, and like, look where I'm at. And then they either do one or two things. Either they pick up their pants and tie their shoe and get off and start working, or they do the opposite, which is they sit back on the couch and they start playing Xbox and, go that route. So
we talked about how our identity is so tied to what we do and our title and all of those things. But I think, like, given a man and a woman as a comparison, women don't do that nearly as much as men do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think that's that primal provider, right? Like, I mean, men's identities are so tied up in who they are and what their title is and what their job is. And very much like what you were saying, right? Where I think women actually have an advantage in that scenario because we're like, we're always going to be the CEO of the house, right?
And it's like, you don't think like that. You're just, it's a matter of, I got to go do this now. Sorry. Like,
it's not a difference in striving to be, and it's not a difference, I don't think, in intention or in motivation. I think it's a difference in the level of who we are, and that being tied to who we can say we are.
Mm-hmm. And I also noticed with my sister just got she's had this role, but she has a pretty big role in a law firm as an accountant, and she has people under her staff, and she had to fire somebody like the other day. And I was like, dude, like, I've seen this before. Like, I told her all the scenarios, like, this is what's going to happen. It's the same thing over and over again. And it's going to be like, the same thing, just different name. And she was like, yeah, it was exactly how it went. And I could tell, like, she was like really bummed about it. And I was like, off with her head. On to the next. Bring the new people in, and she's like still stuck there because she has, she's a woman. She has more emotions than.
Yeah, I mean,
us guys.
I kind of feel like what I always say to any leader, honestly, male or female, is if you ever start enjoying firing people, you should probably stop being in a position that you can do so, right? It should never feel good. I mean, I guess there's really egregious things that people have done in the past that maybe once or twice I was like, I'm really going to enjoy this, right? But for the most part, you're ruining somebody's life.
I really enjoy it, but it's like removing like a chain that's tied to a big like cinder block that I don't have to drag anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. And then it's like, yes, like now I can move quickly
off
now.
with their head.
Yeah, off with their head. Now I can move quickly. That's kind of my experience with just a lot of stuff, and it's also, for me, it's like stocks, right? Like past performance doesn't equal future returns.
Yeah.
So like I'll bring someone on and they're like amazing, and then a couple months later, like life takes a toll on them. They stop calling leads, or they drag their feet, or they're not enthusiastic, or there's no sense of urgency, and it's just like, okay, well, like I'll put another ad out and get more people. You know, just because that's just what life is, and that's the thing it took me a long, long, long time to figure out, is that you can hire well, you can do all the training well, you can do everything. It just, people change. Like when you first start, everything could be going great. Year 2 could be different. Year 3 could be different. Year 5, on down the line.
Or I could challenge you and say maybe you changed, and so they changed because their leader changed.
I think.
Or the passion changed, or the project changed, or the rest of the team changed, or I mean, there's so many things that figure into. I think through lived experience for me that I have come to realize that everyone you pass, everyone you know, everybody is carrying something.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I agree.
Everyone is carrying, and sometimes when you find out what they're carrying, you're like, oh my God. Sometimes when you find out what they're carrying, you're like, okay, first world problems, right?
Right.
But in their world, they're still carrying whatever that is. And so, I mean, I think there's so many things that go into somebody's passion for what they're doing. And sometimes it's nature versus nurture, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really difficult for me. And it's just, a lot of it also is like exactly what you said. Like I'll change and I'll figure out something, but they're still stuck.
Yeah.
And no matter how much training I do, it's like, okay, well now I got to like axe all this department and bring on all new people to fill in the department. And it's just, for somebody that hasn't gone through it, or someone that is, not strong yet to, be able to do that, is very difficult for some people.
And nobody likes change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't met a single person that actually enjoys it. People say they enjoy it, but when it actually happens, I don't know anybody that enjoys it.
Bridgette, if somebody wanted to contact you, maybe learn more about your groups, or wanted to get involved and actually join the groups, where would they find you?
They can find me. I have the executivecollective.com is the website specifically dedicated to that organization that I'm the founder of. I also have a personal website for speaking and consulting, which is bridgettebello.com, and a cell phone that's all over the place and easy to find. So text me, call me, connect with me on LinkedIn, whatever your preference.
Bridgette, I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.